Let's get into it. Sold Not For Sale podcast. Coach Colin here. Joe Rogan talking about something that he hasn't really touched on in quite a while, and that is the moon landing. He has this guy on the podcast, this guy Bart, who has been an investigative journalist who has pretty much centered his entire career around the astronauts, Buzz Aldrin, the moon landing, all these different things. His whole career is surrounded by this one topic. It's very interesting. From the films he's made to the pieces he's wrote to his website, everything is only about this. He's laser focused on this. Now, what you're about to see is one of Jamie's most heated moments. Jamie gets into a debate with this gentleman, and they're talking about the shadows being casted while people are on the moon and sunlight versus electrical light. They go back and forth, and Jamie gets mad. Jamie gets pretty mad. I got to be honest. I've never heard him get this angry, you know? I don't know. It's very, very interesting. And of course, it's about something that's conspiratorial. Jamie doesn't play around with that stuff. The people at the agency don't allow him to do that, you know. Kidding. I'm only kidding. Jamie's a good guy. Listen, guys, don't forget about the channel I got, Coach Colin Media, where I break away from the Rogan content. If you want to see some of that, hit that subscribe button. There's a link in the description. We got 54 videos out so far. Now let's get into the Rogan episode.
Here's something I wanted to say. I talked to a guy who teaches aerospace at a major university, and he said even if he saw Buzz Aldrin confess on national TV that the moon missions were fake, he would still think they're real. Pride is simply the unwillingness to be wrong. And humility is the willingness to be wrong. I was willing to be wrong. It is what it is. They did fake the moon landing. Our government is that corrupt.
Okay, well, let's go over some other stuff. One thing I wanted to go over is the photographs and the shadows that are moving at different angles. Because this has been disputed and this has been refuted by some people that are photographic experts. They've looked at this and said this is actually possible to get these kind of different angles even with natural sunlight. It's debatable, though. So let's talk about it.
So here we have on the right-hand side a picture taken from the alleged last mission to the moon. You'll see on the left-hand side is sunlight. Try it yourself.
Right.
Go out in your front yard or your parking lot at work on a cloudless day. Two people, two telephone poles, two trees. They will always run parallel. They will never intersect. It's impossible for sunlight shadows to intersect. Over here on the right, they claimed was taken in sunlight. After all, there's no atmosphere. It's 20 times brighter on the moon than on Earth. The last thing you need is an electrical light. And the astronaut shadow is going at 12 o'clock, and a rock 5 feet away, the shadow is going at 9 o'clock. A 90-degree intersection proving that that was taken with an electrical light that's really close, and it's probably behind the astronaut. And if you go to the right of it, it's going to throw the angle off. That proves it in a court of law. Take a jury out. They'll see the picture on the left. Turn out the lights in the courtroom, bring in a spotlight, and you will prove in a court of law that that picture was taken with an electrical light, which proves they are on Earth and not on the moon.
Now, what is the conventional explanation as to why these shadows move in different directions? When people try to debunk it, and I'm sure you've seen them try to debunk it, what is their take on it?
I've never heard it debunked, to tell you the truth. They've ignored it. In fact, the reporter from Mechanical Magazine, Popular Mechanics, interviewed me, and they said, I can't explain that. I talked to the Washington Post about the footage we showed. He was doing a story about, isn't it interesting, on the 30th anniversary, some people doubt the moon landing. And I said, well, what about that footage? And he says, well, it looks to me like they didn't go to the moon. And I said, well, why don't you do a story about that? He says, if I did that, I would be fired. That's the Washington Post.
Okay. Jamie, what are your thoughts?
Just out of the gate.
Yeah.
Looking at this photo, I go, sun's behind him.
Well, what about the one side by side? What's your opinion of that one, Jamie?
This photo is not as interesting.
But this is, okay, that's bigger.
That's one.
Go to the side by side one. What's your opinion of that? Sunlight on the left,
1 second.
Electrical lighting on the right.
Well, why does it have to be electrical lighting? There's lots of things that make light.
Sure. Well, let's take a look at the image, Jimmy.
I'm trying to pull it back up, but that's...
My book, which is interactive, has 17 clips. One of the clips, if you want to find it, is National Geographic did a special just to refute my film. And what they did was, and you can find that clip, it's under Sabrel.com, Moonmine Video Clips, and they go to a desert at night. They dress up an actor in an astronaut costume. They bring out a spotlight, and they have people stand next to the astronaut, and the shadows intersect. And you know what they say, Joe? They say that proves that the moon missions are real. And I said, well, wait a minute. It proves that they were taken by electrical light. Why didn't you go out to a desert during the day, during sunlight? You see, they brought in a spotlight. The shadows diverged, and they said it proves that the moon landings are real.
But that's a light that's a close source, right?
Yeah, but my point is, what they actually did is they proved that the moon missions were taken with an electrical light.
If you take photos during the day, it's going to be brighter everywhere.
What's that?
If you take photos in the desert in the day, the entire sky is bright. You have to block out a lot of light.
Well, it doesn't matter. The shadows are still going to run parallel. It doesn't matter.
It does matter because that's what I was trying to get up before I got cut off. Is that from this photo here, which is very similar to the other photo, it looks like the sun is probably behind it. It's probably the brightest source that they have around them. Mm-hmm. You've already admitted that without adding extra laser reflectors, that the moon surface is reflective. Mm-hmm. So there's going to be reflection off of that. And you're going to probably have the Earth, which is also now a second source of light, coming from a different angle that the sun is, to create potentially, without knowing exactly everything, because I'm not the math scientist to know where the sun is, or the sun and Earth are at this particular time of day. They could create different shadows.
Well, not really, because the sun...
Why not?
Well, I'll tell you why.
Okay.
Because the sun is 1,000,000 times bigger in volume than the Earth, and that would be like on a bright, sunny day at noon, shining a flashlight on the ground. Do you think you're going to see...
I can take pictures in here with multiple light sources, though, and they're going to look different.
Right,
well,
but Jamie,
wait a minute.
The difference in the amount of light that gets emitted by the Earth and the amount of light that gets emitted by the sun is substantial.
100%,
right, that would be like shining a flashlight on the ground at high noon on a cloudless day. You're not going to see the beam of the sunlight.
The thing is,
and,
though, Jamie...
And the surface, take it from a filmmaker, that's called reflective light. It's not going to cast a distinctive shadow.
Yes, but here's my point. It's still that rock on the upper right-hand corner, even if it was getting light from the Earth that made that shadow that underneath it to the left that goes in the wrong direction, you would still get the same kind of shadow that you get off the astronaut behind the rock. There's no reason why that would blast out that shadow. That shadow would be significantly stronger.
All right, that's why this is the reason I wanted to go with a different photo, because that's the one he sent and has other stuff on it. I wanted to try a different photo.
Well, this one is not nearly as convincing.
It has shadows going in different directions all over the place.
That's because it's taken with electrical light.
Well, it does seem
But
that they're going in different directions.
It's from Apollo 11.
Right. Well, Apollo 11, they're saying, was taken with electrical light, Jamie. What are you saying?
No, he's saying it's from electrical light. My point here right now, look, the sunlight behind the guy's head, right over here on the left, shadow coming to the right, over here on the right.
But who says it's sunlight?
Right, but Jamie,
that's your assumption.
If you had electrical light
if it were
above,
sunlight, the shadows would be parallel. You're actually proving it's an electrical light because sunlight is parallel.
Yeah, it's
all right,
but
I'm
no,
gonna stop.
but hold on, Jamie, don't stop.
But you guys are fighting against the things that I'm saying as a photographer, as a filmmaker, and like
we're not fighting against anything.
You're assuming it's sunlight.
I said it could be 4 different lights. It also could be the reflector of the actual lunar lander. That thing is made of giant shiny metal that has also light reflecting in multiple ways.
Where's the lunar lander
Probably
though in
behind
relation?
him.
Maybe
We don't know,
but that's part of the problem.
Where all the light sources are. I wasn't there.
Right, that's part of the problem with analyzing each individual short little photograph like this. But if I'm looking at this, I see one very distinct shadow that's coming from the person.
Here's one in the bottom right there that shows shadows at 2 different angles.
That's kind of crazy.
That means an electrical light. That's what it means.
Well,
why? Because I just showed you what a picture looked like in
why does
sunlight.
it have to be an electrical light? There's lots of light sources.
Yeah, that's true.
Well,
it's true.
I mean,
but there's also a hot spot.
They either filmed it on the moon or they filmed it on Earth.
And that's where
if it's on the moon, the shadows are parallel in sunlight. If the shadows intersect, it's an electrical light, which means they're actually on Earth, and they're trying to fake us out.
So what you're saying is that if it's electrical light, it's more than one source of light that they have like suspended, and so these are going to cast light in different directions, and it's going to create shadows that come at different angles, as opposed to the enormous sun, which bathes everything in a fairly even distribution of light.
Yeah, if there's 2 light sources, like 2 electrical lights, they'd run in different directions.
Right.
Or if there's 1 light, because it's close. The sun is 93 million miles away. That electrical light is probably like 10 feet away. So if you're behind it, it's going to cast a shadow, or in front of it, it's going to cast a shadow straight ahead. And if you're to the side of it, it's going to cast an angle the light in a different angle, and the shadow in a different angle.
And so this one is just normal.
I mean, look at this picture on the right. This is the most famous picture. Get the original off of eBay. They've color corrected this. The soil and the original picture around his feet is caramel brown. Look at the pictures from the Chinese probes that the AI said was real. It was a caramel brown color. And they had the background grayish blue. And they said, oops, we can see the fake background too easily. So they color corrected them. Go to eBay, go to your library, find a publication from 1970, and you'll see, and all them lunar pictures, the originals there's one there. There's the brown one there. Go back. There was one picture of the original print of the soil being brown right there. That's the color. All that set of pictures that I had, those 20 pictures I got from my dad, all of them had the soil that color, including the famous one of Buzz Aldrin. right? They all had a caramel brown. And in the Chinese probes, the soil is caramel brown because that's the color it really is.
Right,
They
but
color
if you
corrected
landed,
them.
but if you landed a probe in the desert in California versus you landed a probe in the middle of Austin in rainy season, you're going to get different ground, different color ground, right? Wouldn't we assume that the moon, when we look at the moon, there's a bunch of different shades of the moon, right? That's the man on the moon. There's like
And all the NASA pictures and the original prints, they're all the same shade,
right?
caramel
Because
brown.
they're in that spot where it's that
But
color.
you have to see there's a before and after of that same picture.
Okay, that I want to say.
The original picture, well, you have to find it on eBay or whatever. The original picture
Don't you think it's online?
could be, but you'd have to go to eBay and type in Apollo 11
Well, everybody knows
photographs.
eBay is the most trusted source of information. There's no way.
What we
eBay's-
need is the
I let that run a little long, but that was Jamie getting pretty heated about this whole thing. You know what? I can kind of understand why. Here's the thing, right? There's a reason why I let that part play right at the beginning when he was talking about a gentleman who said, even if Buzz Aldrin confessed and said it wasn't real, he would still believe that it was real. I think this gentleman, this Bart gentleman, is the exact same as that guy. That if even if somebody came and showed him exact proof that it's a real landing, it really happened, he would still not believe it. Here's the thing, though. He is so incentivized, financially incentivized in this whole thing. It is his entire career. The movies he's made, the articles he writes, the interviews he does, his website, his channel, everything is about this, and it has to be fake. If he all of a sudden, like, what's he going to do if somebody proves him wrong, that it actually did happen? We did go to the moon. What is he going to do? He's going to change everything that we did go to the moon interviews and we did go to the moon website. There's nothing sensationalized there. Now, I'm not giving my opinion either way. Yeah, I guess you could give an opinion either way, especially when you dig deep into it. But I will say one opinion that I have for sure. But I just want to say, yeah, he's very incentivized. He's very, very incentivized. And, Jamie being a secret agent that is controlling Joe Rogan, he's very incentivized as well. I'm joking. Someone is in the comment section. They're like, why are you saying that Jamie's in the CIA? I'm like, it's a joke. Everybody, we have a joke here at the channel. It's an ongoing joke forever. And I'll say it to him one day when I meet him as well. It'll be the first thing I ask him. I promise you that. But yeah, this guy's very, very incentivized to believe this. And the thing that he said about pride, he has that same thing. He's not willing to be wrong. I mean, the whole time you're hearing him talk with Jamie, there's no, oh, I could see that. Oh, yeah, okay, I see what you're saying. There's none of that with him. He's just like, no, you're wrong. This is what it is. Even at the end of the episode, well, he's like, this is what we figured out. And he just starts listing all the things that he thinks. And Joe's like, okay, I kind of combated you on this whole thing. And you can see it either way. But he's not interested in that. He's been doing this since 1985 to today. He's been doing this longer than I've been alive. Are you kidding me? I have gray hair in my chin. He's been doing it longer than that. I have hair in my ears. He's been doing it longer than that. Before my ears were even a thing to have hair coming out of them. And I had to go to the store and buy a trimmer for my nose and my ears. Before I even had knee pain. Before my knees were even... He's been doing it forever. It's crazy. So, I get it when people say it didn't happen. I get it when people say it did happen. But this guy, I'm just talking about this guy, he seems really... He needs to be into the fact that this happened. He cannot have it be that this didn't happen. Sorry, that it all was staged and fake. He is married to that. It's not even he's married to that, and his bank account is attached to that. And I will say also, Jamie being like, as a filmmaker, is Jamie a filmmaker? Let me know in the comments, guys. I've never seen anything. I'm kind of a JRE connoisseur. I've looked deep into Jamie. I've never seen any films. Maybe he's been a part of films. Maybe he's helped as a director of photography, because that is a very valuable position in a movie. I don't know if you know that. And he is a photographer. That's for sure. I've seen his photography page. A lot of people don't know about that, but he is a photographer and he's been one for a really long time. And he's actually really, really good. And he has a website where he sells shirts. I don't know if you knew that either. He has shirts that say like, pull that up, Jamie. Yeah. Like pull that up shirts. Yeah. So he's doing a bunch of stuff, but for him to be like, I'm a filmmaker, you're combating what I'm saying. And I don't know. And then the one thing that Jamie said was, he's like, many things emit light. How many things emit light? Like in their argument, they're talking about the sun. That's one for sure. There's electrical, because that would be this light. That would be, flashlight, phone light. All of that would be considered electrical. And then there's the moon. What else emits light? Like, I guess reflection off of water, reflection off of metal, but that would be considered sunlight in the context that they're talking about it in. So I don't know. And when it comes to the whole shadow things, I don't know that either. But here's the thing. Here's my position. What I didn't hear in this whole episode, because I'll give you a little breakdown of the episode. The first hour and 10 minutes, Joe is completely combating this guy. Actually, hour and 14 minutes. First hour and 14 minutes, Joe is completely shooting this guy down left and right, to the point where this guy's like, why are you doing this? He's like, oh, I have to steel man you. The guy's like, you don't have to be doing this. Like, he's getting upset. Like, he gets really, he's like, why am I even here? You're just shooting down everything I'm saying. But Joe does that for the first hour, 14 minutes. And after that, then he starts kind of coming onto the guy's side. And I guess that's what he wanted the episode to be made of. He wanted it to show that he is not for this idea, and then he wanted to explore the potential of it being faked. So it was very interesting to see. I guess he's trying to preserve himself, not have people come after him, not have a smear campaign come at him again. But here's where I'm at with it. You can't have a conversation about the moon and not bring up my boy Stanley Kubrick. What? They didn't bring this guy up once. It was a 3-hour episode. I just finished listening to it. They didn't bring up Stanley not one time. What? Listen, if you're somebody who's talking about things being fake, you have to bring up Stanley Kubrick. And even if you're someone who thinks it's real and it really did happen, you even still have to bring up Stanley Kubrick. One side because of how incredible Stanley Kubrick was and how close he was to NASA. The other side for how ridiculous the theory sounds. You got to bring them up. I don't understand how they didn't bring them up at all. And that's my go-to. The wife and I actually did an episode on this. This is actually our episode. We did this a while ago. Oh, they even gave us a little, look at that. The dark connection between the moon landing and Stanley Kubrick. They gave us a little content warning. Oh, well. That's always terrifying when YouTube does that, but it's okay. I understand why. But yeah, we did a whole breakdown of everything, the movies that he's done, the little Easter eggs he was leaving around. The one thing I'll say is I found it very weird that Stanley Kubrick was able to go to NASA and be like, hey, make me this camera lens. I think it was for 2001 Space Odyssey. He was like, make me a camera lens that can do XYZ. And they did it. And I found that really weird. I'm like, does NASA just do things for directors? He had to be a pretty special director. And Stanley Kubrick was a very special director. Greatest director of all time, in my opinion. Best movies ever, in my opinion. 2001 Space Odyssey showed that he knew how to depict space better than anybody on the planet. There was nobody making films who could show what it seemed like to be in space, to interact with AI. No one was better at that than him. It was an incredible movie. If you have not seen 2001 Space Odyssey, please see it. See it twice. It's one of the best movies of all time. But that's me. I love that movie. Anyway, yeah, that was my big beef with this whole episode. The fact that they didn't bring up Stanley Kubrick. Now, when it comes to the whole shadow things that they're talking about, I don't know. And honestly, they don't know either. Jamie's like, well, the sun's behind them. Is it? They're on the moon. You don't know what you're talking about. And the other guy's like, oh, that has to be electrical. Like, both of them don't know. And that's always the thing when it comes to this argument. And that's where I started to land when it came to this argument. Because people who are just like, yeah, it's like, even in that video I just showed you, someone's comment was just, we went to the moon. And to that person, I say, you didn't go anywhere. You've probably never even left your state, just so you know. More than likely, you've never left your state, never left your country. So you don't know what you're talking about. But I will say that unless you've been out there, you'll never know. We'll never really know. You just have to have faith. If you have faith that we went, then that's what you're doing. But you don't really have that much proof. And the reason I say you don't have that much proof is because there's so much counter evidence. Like, as much as there's proof, there's so much counter evidence as well. And as much as there's counter evidence, there's a whole bunch of proof that you have to take as proof. You know, people who went there, their experiences, what they say, the fact that they stick to their story of what they've said, even though some stories have changed over time as these gentlemen have gotten older. If you don't know about Bart, by the way, Bart's actually the person who got punched by Buzz Aldrin. I believe it was Buzz. He went up to him with a Bible. If you ever seen this video, it's from a long time ago. That was this gentleman who was on Joe Rogan. He went up to him, and the fact that they didn't talk about that either. Like, you're not going to talk about that. This guy got punched by Buzz Aldrin because he went up to him and he said, hey, swear on the Bible. Swear on this Bible. Do it. And Buzz ended up fighting the guy. Oh my gosh. He's interviewed these guys in hotel rooms. He's done all sorts of stuff. So it's odd that they didn't touch on any of this. You know, a lot of people always point to the fact that Rogan used to believe in this whole thing and now he doesn't believe in it. And people point that out as his flip-flop. A lot of people point that out as that's the point where he sold his soul, which you're so off base. You have no idea how off base you are. Somebody changing their stance on the moon landing is not an indication that they've sold their soul. Their alignment with Satan is actually the thing that will show you that. Check out Sam Smith's concerts. That'll kind of show you what it. Check out before and after of Sam Smith. That'll give you a little foundation of where to go, how to view when somebody sold their soul. But yeah, he's switched his stance on this, and in this episode, oddly enough, he's making sure not to put anything out there. He's not saying, he said he would give his opinion. He said that in the first hour. He's like, I'll give you my opinion eventually. He does not give his opinion throughout this whole podcast. He literally just says, this seems possible, that seems possible, this seems possible, that seems possible, that doesn't seem like that's it. That's all he's saying throughout the entire thing. So yeah, Joe has removed himself from that conversation. That'll be for younger podcasters to have, you know, throughout the years, because I'm sure this debate will never end. But I will say that was one of the most heated situations with Jamie that I have ever seen. Between that, there's only been a couple other episodes where Jamie has spoken that much and has gotten that heated. But Jamie got up there in this one. But let me know what you guys think in the comments. I mean, it's always so divided when it comes to this conversation. I just think it's just disrespectful not to bring up my boy here. You're not going to bring up the boy? You kidding me? This guy brought you Eyes Wide Shut. You don't bring him up? He brought you 2001 Space Odyssey. You don't bring him up? He brought you Barry Lipton. You don't bring him up? You kidding me? This guy's the man. Absolutely the man. And some people say he passed away for his craft. But that's for a different episode. Really, really interesting. Actually, you know what? I won't leave that for another episode. It's really interesting that he had a contract. Oh, jeez. Sorry. He had a contract where it said that you cannot remove scenes that he's done. Once he shot something, it's going in the movie. That's that. He had that contract. No director gets that type of contract. He was a special guy. And then in his last movie, Eyes Wide Shut, he passed away, I think a week before it was supposed to be released, and they violated the contract, took out a 20-minute chunk of the movie, and just put it out. What was in that 20-minute chunk? Who knows? He was a genius, and he was also touching on some very interesting concepts. So we will never know. And I like to correlate that to the whole moon landing thing. You will never actually know until you go up there and you see the flag or you see the footprints and you see all that stuff, or you don't. You're never really going to know, you know? All we can really do is go by what's available. And again, there's so much information that it's up to each individual. You can't be somebody who looks at somebody who believes in it and thinks that they're ridiculous, because there's so much information for you to do that. And you can't look at someone who thinks it's fake and think that they're ridiculous, because there's so much information to give them that conclusion. It's out of control, honestly. But I'm just happy to see Jamie do a back and forth like that and get all riled up. What do you guys think about Jamie? What do you think about what they were saying about the light, the shadows? What do you think about how many things could emit light? Again, I feel like it's just the sun, the moon, and electrical. And honestly, the moon is just reflecting the sun from my understanding. So, I don't know. I feel like it's just a few things. I think Jamie was wrong there. And let me know if you guys know about any film that Jamie's made. I would love to see that film. Unless he's counting the podcast as film, which I would not be doing that. Anyways, guys, like, subscribe, share. It helps tremendously. Other than that, I'm out.